What the hell is taking so long to get Nolan's toxicology back? Nolan's first and official autopsy was conducted on July 7th, a few days after he disappeared while partying with his friends on Horn Island, Mississippi over the 4th of July weekend. Weeks later, we still don't have toxicology. Then, a second independent autopsy was conducted a couple weeks later in DC, and those results just came back on July 22nd, with the results coming back as undetermined pending further investigation. A big headline circulating right now is that the independent pathologist was unable to conduct certain parts of the examination because they did not have access to Nolan's organs, some of Nolan's organs, and parts of his neck structure was missing. This was because the state medical examiner was still retaining those organs and parts of his neck to conduct additional testing. That is par for the course. I hate to burst bubbles here, but that is not entirely uncommon. They want to keep that because they are conducting additional testing, toxicology, microscopic analysis, or they're preserving it as evidence as part of their ongoing investigation. The report notates that itself. But when it comes to toxicology, I think everybody's expecting that you take a few vials of blood or tissue, you put it in a machine, you press a button, and then you wait a few hours and it spits out a result, just like in CSI, right? Wrong. Just ask Theranos. If you know, you know. It's a little more complicated than that. Allow me to explain. First, the laboratory has to determine which samples they're going to test. This could include blood, urine, vitreous fluid, which is the clear gel inside the eye that's often really well preserved after death, liver tissue, or any other specimen they deem necessary. Different substances are easier to detect in different parts of the body. Then they have to decide what they're actually looking for. Alcohol is tested differently than prescription medications. Prescription medications are tested differently than fentanyl. Fentanyl is tested differently than synthetic drugs or newer designer substances. There isn't one universal test that detects everything. And most laboratories start with a broad screening to see if anything unusual shows up. If something does, they don't stop there. They have to run additional confirmation testing using much more sophisticated equipment to verify exactly what the substance is and, just as importantly, how much of it was present, because concentration is everything. A medication found at a normal therapeutic level tells a very different story than the same medication found at a toxic level, obviously. Sometimes a concentration can raise even bigger forensic questions. Could someone have realistically self-administered that amount? Does that level even fit the timeline investigators have established? Or does it point investigators in an entirely different direction? That's why toxicology isn't just about identifying what was present. It's about understanding what those findings actually mean. Then trying to figure out, was somebody impaired? Were they sedated? Were they poisoned? Could they have lost consciousness? Did a medical condition contribute to their death? Did the ingestion of a substance create a medical emergency? Or does toxicology come back completely normal? Now, putting all of that aside for a second, most state forensic laboratories are handling hundreds, sometimes thousands of cases. Even high-profile investigations often have to go through the same scientific process because accuracy has to come before speed. Nevertheless, this does feel painfully slow, especially in a case that's receiving so much national attention. I'm hoping toxicology is one of the last pieces of the puzzle and can finally give this family some answers. But if I'm being completely honest with you, I don't trust much of anything anymore. As a mother of a son who is just a year older than Nolan, a son who actually went out to the Outer Banks, went to an island, spent an entire week leading up to July 4th with his friends at his friend's beach house, his friends who are also of a certain demographic, this is hitting eerily close to home. Specifically because I remember telling him in the days leading up to that trip that I was going to be a helicopter mom for these very reasons, because it just feels like it's so unsafe. And I hate to make this about a certain issue, but it just cannot be ignored that it keeps happening to kids that look like ours. I just need to put that out there. As for the mom, celebrating her son's life, engaging with the press, doing all of this with a seemingly straight face, I know that sometimes she does break down. I would not have the strength for that. I'm just being honest. I wouldn't. You might as well throw me in the hole. I'll just go down with the casket. That's how I feel. And so I just send lots of love to her and any mother who has been through this. It is unimaginable. That type of grief for me is unimaginable. And I really do hope that they get some clarity, they get answers, and most importantly, that they get justice. Because at the end of the day, no matter how he passed, he shouldn't have been left on that island. I'll continue keeping a close eye on this case. However, I'm not doing real-time updates. I'm waiting for us to have something concrete to analyze together so I can break it down for you. I'll catch you in the next one.